Two girls, no fights. Two girls, no fights.
Get in here. Yeah, okay, we got this. Help me. What's going on? Hi, everybody. Welcome to Two Girls.
No Fcks.
And today's topic
is polyamory and monogamy.
And monogamy.
We discuss both. Two sides to every story.
I mean, there's so many sides.
That's true.
We're
There's
talking
probably
about
more
poly.
than two.
Oh, yeah.
There's like 5. It's that octagonal. What's poly? How many is that? Is that just unlimited sides?
Poly is unlimited. So,
okay.
yeah, it's polyamory, also referred to as consensual non-monogamy.
Okay. Consensual non-monogamy.
So you're not monogamous, and everybody consents to that in the relationships.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm excited to dive into this topic with you because you're on one side of the coin in terms of you're like in exploring that type of relationship.
Yep.
And I've been a serial monogamist my entire life. So it'll be interesting because I want to learn more.
And funny enough, because in our last episode we read our diaries, and I've read my diary several times throughout my lifetime.
Yeah.
But there is a part recently where I read that I think I was 13 and I was in a polyamorous relationship.
What?
Like a friend of mine and I both liked this boy, and we decided we were both going to date him and date each other at the same time. I mean, it's in the book. Wow. Now that I look back, that makes a lot of sense for who I am. But I kind of drifted away from that and was monogamous for many years. And then, things changed.
Yeah, or they stayed the same, You just evolved into who you truly are.
Yes, I'm still evolving. I'm still trying to figure it out. It is complex. Every relationship, no matter what, I believe is complex.
Oh, yeah.
And incredible.
Human relationships are complex. It's really complicated to live your life, like, with another person, like, however that looks like. It's always going to be a challenge. Yeah. I think. At least I've experienced. I do want to do a couple of quick notes here. First off, my sweater I'm wearing is from Thrifter. Most of my wardrobe is Thrifter. If you don't know what Thrifter is, it's Kim's online thrift store. She runs an Instagram shop, and it's my favorite place to shop. It's sustainable. You're buying thrift clothing. However, Kim goes out and handpicks everything from all over, like the Lower Mainland, even occasionally you go to Montreal. Whenever you travel,
and I've got pickers now.
Oh my gosh.
Pickers. That sounds really funny, but I do have a picker in Alberta right now who's doing a really great job.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Good for you.
So if you want to be a picker, let me know.
Hiring pickers.
The first time you go picking, I'm on FaceTime.
Awesome. And then the other thing is that we are sharing these discussions on a podcast as well. So you can always check out our podcasts. I'll be linking that in our description box below and all over everywhere that you can find us. You'll find those links. Yeah. And the special part of that is that sometimes these videos are going to be more edited for YouTube just to shorten them up, whereas the full episode will be shared on the podcast. So if you want to hear all the itty bitty details,
shout out to our
find us there.
Tech person, Evadaperon, because
This is why every time so far that we've filmed, I've been drinking white wine, because I come here after spending many hours trying to figure this all out. It is not my jam. It is not my jam.
Yeah. Yet you've made it your jam, which is so impressive, because it's not my jam and it can't be my jam. It really can't.
Yeah. We're doing the best that we can.
Yeah.
So polyamory.
Yes.
Let's talk about it.
I can just tell my story.
Yes.
It's funny because I don't think I had the words to describe that I was polyamorous before recently. I was monogamous for a long time, and I would cheat on everybody. I was a serial cheater. And I remember at the time feeling really guilty all the time because, when you're out there trying to live your best life, of course I was younger too and trying to figure stuff out, but overall I was a pretty decent human,
Yes.
And there was this part of me that was just cheating on people all the time. And I remember thinking, like, I'm just a shitty person.
And like when you say cheating, I feel like it's different than what regular monogamous cheating is, because I have been cheated on. I've also cheated very early on in my life, and
I didn't realize you've cheated.
yeah, it's like such a lame version of cheating.
Dabbled in the cheat.
Yeah, it wasn't like I had an affair. Not to like say it's better or worse. This was also when I was like in my when I was like 19, 20 years old, and learned from that experience. But the cheating that I feel like that happens in like a monogamous person, if you're a monogamous lover, is that you think that the grass is greener, or you're trying to find a way to get out of a relationship. You're trying to sabotage it. That's what I was doing. I was absolutely trying to just sabotage the situation because I didn't have the guts to just end the relationship. And that also happened to me, and I believe it was the exact same scenario. This person did not want to be with me anymore and just could not just break up with me, so they decided to do something that could be unforgivable in our relationship. Whereas I feel like maybe in the polyamory world, the cheating that you were doing is you wanted to add in additional people to your life, not necessarily were you wanting to sabotage? Or...
I don't think I was trying to... I mean, I was younger then, and, you know, my take on polyamory now is different, but I do have a lot of love to give, and I know from a long time ago that I'm capable of loving more than one person, and, you know, I have this idea. I don't know if I knew that then, but I have this idea. And of course, it's just my idea. It doesn't, you know, not necessarily going to work with everybody, but I've always liked the idea of having a 3-person relationship. Not like separate relationships where I go and do something and come back. And, you know, for me, and polyamory has so many different forms, but for me, I've always wanted this triad kind of situation. I'm hesitant to use the word throuple because it makes people cringe, but it is a word. Yeah. Just 3 people pooling their resources together, living together, loving each other.
So
and
in your ideal polyamorous world, would it be you would be living all under one roof? Yeah. Sharing, and everyone's sharing in the relationships? Like there's
in my ideal world, yeah. Okay. Enter the fact that it's not always going to shake out that way, and that's where it gets complicated. You know, and then there's the daily concept that time is limited. You know, it's already hard to make time for your partner, your friends, your work, your activities, and then throw in another person. It just becomes complex if that person is completely separate. Yeah. And you're having to make separate time. And I don't really want to, like, that's just me, of course. There's, like, a million people I know that are poly, that, you know, prefer to have, you know, romantic relationship with one person and then a separate romantic relationship with somebody else. And sometimes it's just... You know, again, it takes many shapes and forms. Sometimes it's just a sexual relationship somewhere else. But really it's, you know, it's this idea that everybody is giving consent. Or at least trying to give consent to make it, you know, to open up paths for everybody to live their authentic self. Back then when I was younger, I think I would just meet somebody and, like, just be so intrigued by them. And I'd think about them and want to spend more time with them. And all of a sudden, we're making out! Shit! And I never had any way to explain why I was doing that. Like, it wasn't that I had stopped loving the person I was with. It wasn't that I was no longer interested in the person that I was with. I had just found an additional interest. And it took me a long time. It took me all this time to get to the place where I am now, where I'm starting to speak up about what I want. And it's hard. It's hard to receive, for somebody who's not poly. It's hard to understand when we live in a society that's predominantly monogamous. Yeah. It's really hard because if I'm starting a relationship with somebody new and that person independently is seeking advice from friends, most of those friends are going to be monogamous. And the discussion is going to be very different than if you were to speak to a poly person who would understand that it's absolutely okay. But even for myself as a poly person, I constantly feel shame. And I have to, like, check myself. I feel shame for loving more than one person.
Oh, really?
And that's...
Like guilt or, like...
Yeah, just shame and guilt. Just guilt because you sometimes get roped into this mentality of, like, oh, fuck, like, you know, I should just pick one person over another person, you know? But this idea of having to pick is a monogamous idea. Yeah. But it's something that we grow up surrounded with heavily. Yeah. So... it's hard to detach from it sometimes, what I'm finding.
Oh, completely. And I agree. We're so inundated with the idea of monogamy being the only way to successfully be in a relationship, or the only real relationship that exists is a monogamous one. And I can't say that I've overcome those like social constructs, because I so am such a monogamous person, and perhaps as much as the reason you're poly is why I'm monogamous, but like I've tried so many times in my life to just date people, just to like go and date more than one person at a time, like go to a coffee with someone and like maybe a movie or something. Every time I've been single, I've been like, this is the time now, you're gonna live that life. And every time I've like gone to a bar, saw someone I liked, made out with them, dated them for a year and a half. Then I went on Tinder, met someone, lived together for 2 years. Like, it's just like I can't seem to just ever be in that stage of just like trying out new people and relationships. It's like I just meet the person and I'm just in. So I don't know, it's just the way maybe that I come at relationships. But I definitely feel the most secure and healthy and stuff in a monogamous relationship. I've always looked at people that are poly, including you, and think that, is it because I don't have the security within myself? Because I am a believer about love shouldn't be that like you have to like have someone like in cuffs loving you back. Like that's not what love is. Like love should be that you love someone, the whole thing of setting them free, and if they love you back, then that's like love. It's not about like you're committed to me and you can't look at other people and like that sort of thing. But I definitely joke a lot about not being able to handle if the person I'm with even like was like considering being sexually involved with someone else or just emotionally involved with someone else. I feel like just so hurt by that idea.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
What if the person you're with wanted to bring in a person into like to have sex with you guys for one night? How would that
I just feel, for me, it would absolutely implode my entire universe.
Absolutely implode my entire universe. Like, I just...
Absolutely could not. I know. And maybe that's just, I know myself well enough.
Yeah.
I've been in enough relationships to know what I can handle, what I can't. But I've definitely been in long-term relationships where these ideas come up. There's conversations that happen. Like, even early on in my life, in a relationship where I was like, the person I was with hadn't been experienced very much in relationships. We both were very young. I was fine with how experienced I was, but the person I was with felt like they weren't ready to be so committed.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, maybe I'll just like boop, put pause on our relationship. I wasn't gonna do anything, but you're free to go like all over town and do whatever you need to do. Live your life.
A pass,
see
a
what's
free
out there.
pass.
Like multiple passes. Like get out there, do your thing. It ended up not happening, and that relationship ended. But I can see, like, that looking at relationships like that, like just not owning someone and not owning their experiences. But at the same time, I feel like it takes a lot of security in knowing yourself and confidence.
Yeah, I don't even know how it happened because I remember. So I was in a relationship with somebody who is now one of my best friends, with Manny, and I remember being a very jealous person.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, at the end of that relationship, we started talking about opening up, I guess.
Yeah.
And it was almost like a full circle moment because I had been that way younger, and then I kind of like fell into monogamy, I guess. Anyways, and it's at that moment where I just had this revelation where I was like, I need to just be in an open relationship. I hadn't called it poly then, and that's where things changed for me again, because I came into my marriage saying, you know, same thing with Jay, let's just be open. And what that meant is, you know, and we had rules, you know, like any relationship. It's like, let's make out with people, let's do it together. If we're going to sleep with people, let's do it together. And
just so people know that might not know you in your relationship, you're married still. Yeah. You're married. You've been married for like
since 2016. Yeah,
quite a few years.
And
like an open.
Yeah, and so we had both said we were open. You know, it's like any human process or growth. We had both said we were open, and we participated in that Jay more than I, and in retrospect now I know why, and I had said at some point throughout this relationship, like, maybe one day we'll find somebody that we love that can come live with us, and I hadn't called it poly because I don't think I knew to call it poly.
Right.
I had mentioned it in passing, and it kind of like makes a lot of sense based on who I am. Mm-hmm. And I didn't engage in making out because I actually, the way I function is I won't see somebody at a bar and think they're hot and want to make out with them. If my wife sees somebody and thinks they're hot and wants me to make out with them, and it's fun and we're all doing it for sure, but that was more of a her thing, which makes a lot of sense because she's not poly at the moment, and so she is open, and that makes a lot of sense for her. And we're at this point now where we're realizing, wait a minute, you're open, I'm poly. What does that mean? And so we're trying to bridge that gap and figure it out and see how that works. But all this to say is that that's the difference, is that I don't want to just, I prefer an emotional connection.
So is that more what poly is then? Then it's like you're involved in committed, like, emotional and sexual relationships?
Yeah, I think, and again, I'm still learning all of this, so I don't want to blanket statement it, but I think, in a poly relationship, it's consensual non-monogamy. So whether that means, let's say you and I are married and I'm like, I'm going to go have sex with this person. You're like, fine, go do that. And I come back. Or I've fallen in love with this person. I want to go on dates with them. And you're like, great, do that. I'm going to do my thing. And so, and there's different, or, you and I are married and all of a sudden I meet somebody, I'm like, and you like them too. And it's like, okay, this person, we want to date them. There's so many different versions.
Yeah.
But poly is essentially a consensual relationship where people are agreeing that, like, we are not only going to be loving each other or having sex with each other. And again, it depends. You might have a poly relationship where it's like you've got two people that are married and the other person's going to go and, have sex. I find that is more of an open relationship. But again, that's just my take on it.
Got it.
Yeah.
So the part now that you're navigating, I guess, is that you would fully identify at this point as a poly person.
Yeah, I would, yeah.
And that's come in the last, like, few years.
Yeah, that's it. It's come, in the last, I would say, 8-9 years, and I'm now just starting to, articulate it.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
That's what I mean. Like, you, it's always been there, but now you're able to identify it as something more clear. And Jay is not identifying that way.
Is not identifying that way. Jay identifies as open, and the interesting thing too is, when you navigate these situations, it's all about, you're going to make mistakes. If, it's normal to make mistakes. The trick is to own the mistake and to just be vocal about what you want.
Communication.
Because sometimes we get lost in trying to appease and making sure that we're giving everybody else what they want, but there's nothing wrong. For all of you out there who are thinking that you might be poly or you're open, there's nothing wrong with the way you are. And delivering that message, if it's going to be met with anger or frustration, that's not yours to own. If you're coming to the table and speaking your truth and you're on this path of discovering who you are, you should be able to say, hey, I love you and I also love this other person, or I love you, I also want to have sex with this other person, or et cetera, and you should be able to verbalize that in a nice, kind way. And if that's met with resistance, that's fine. If it's met with anger, that's not yours.
Yeah.
Sometimes we take that on and we think, I'm doing something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And that's hard because it's something that keeps coming back up. It's like I said before, it's that monogamous culture that we live in that comes back and bites you and tries to tell you that you're doing something wrong or that there's something wrong with you when there isn't.
Yeah, and there's definitely a fear of judgment, I think, especially if it's the scenario of you coming to your partner, to someone you're in a relationship with, and saying, like, this is how I feel and this is what I want. And sometimes people are afraid of being judged from the outside of, like, oh, my relationship isn't successful because my partner wants to be with other people.
Yeah.
Or, we're not in this committed, like, they don't love me as much as they should, or I don't make them fulfill them enough that they need to go seek out other people. And it's like, it's funny because I understand it. Like, I can hear myself say it, I get it, but at the same time, me as a person, I'm like, like I
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to handle it. But I would like to think that if my partner came to me with this scenario, and I have had people come to me in my life in relationships with this scenario, and I have been sad about it, and they've been kind of sadder conversations because my perception is our relationship is struggling, and we're not enough for each other, that we need to seek outside. But there's also the rational side of it that, like, I don't know always if monogamy is for every person. Like, it can be for a lot of people, but there could be the idea that for other people it's not. And the tricky part is finding the matches, you know, in this stage, and, like, you know, getting involved with people in a certain stage, and then you evolve, and then maybe you don't meet up in that next evolution.
Yeah. Even the side of our relationship where Jay has been open, that has changed a lot throughout the years. And I've had to wrap my head around several times what that looks like, if that makes sense. Like, I find a lot of comfort in a poly relationship, and an open relationship, although a lot of times there's no feelings involved. I find that more complicated to wrap my head around. That being said, I'm really happy that if Jay is going out and being with somebody else, I find a lot of joy in that. There's a word for it, and I don't know what it's called, but I actually am very happy for Jay if she's engaging with somebody else, or like making out with somebody else, or sleeping with somebody else. And of course, like, we like talk about these things, but I have gotten to a place where there's no jealousy there. And if there is, because sometimes there might be a little bit, I'm able to process it and understand where it's coming from. And, you know, I don't want to sound, well, I'm not the most spiritual person necessarily, but, you know, we are occupying these bodies while we are here on earth. And it's like really interesting sometimes, you know, that we limit ourselves. That's the way I look at it, of course. We limit ourselves when there's like a million people that can come into our lives that we can have this momentary connection with, or a long-term connection with.
Yeah.
And this idea of having ownership over somebody else, or feeling like I need to be enough for you. It's like, there's a lot of stuff that I can't give Jay, and I know that, you know. There's a lot, like, if she met a hot babe that loves to go to metal shows, fuck, that'd be nice.
I know, it is a wild thing to think, because I remember earlier in my life being so absolutely crushed when my relationships would fail, because my determination of my success as a human in life was to be in a successful monogamous relationship. All my siblings were in them, like, either married, you know, all taking all those steps. And so every time one of mine would fail, I would feel like I'm a failure, like, why can't I make this work? But also, looking back, I've been in quite a few more relationships than, say, my siblings, for example. And all of these people were so great, and I've learned so much, and the experiences I have had with each and every one has, like, changed my life in such a profound way. So it's kind of crazy to think that you would limit yourself to only having one person to have, like to share your life with. But then again, like, I'm also...
But you're happy, and you're also very happy with your partner.
I am.
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah.
So where do you go from here? That's where we can...
I mean, without saying too much, it's... I don't know. You know, the beauty of Jay and I is that we constantly communicate.
You guys are both so self-aware, too. I feel like that...
Yeah.
The way you communicate, and, like, in talking to, like, going to therapy, like, all those things that I think just, like, emotionally intelligent people, which I think it would be a key part of having these conversations, is, like, you said, like, you can even be aware of your jealousy and distinguish where it's coming from, and, like, not everybody's able to be at that level.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually at a gathering recently, and somebody that I love dearly, that Jay has made out with several times, was like, I hope I've never, like, crossed any boundaries. No, because we discuss everything, and it brings me great joy when Jay's out enjoying herself, and I don't want to be the only person that brings her that. It's really an ego thing. But again, like I said, it's not that polyamory is for everybody. I understand monogamy is a great thing. But for me and Jay, we talk a lot. We are both aware that, like, we, you know, we have been in this relationship since 2016. We've been married since 2016, been together since 2015. And it's like our relationship has taken so many turns, and it went from both of us being open, and even within that we've had to come back to the table and be like, okay, well, that didn't work, that worked, that didn't feel good, when that happened, that didn't feel good.
What would you suggest to anybody out there that might think that could be relating to you right now, feeling this way?
Reach out to me.
There you go, direct contact.
Yeah, send me a DM on my Instagram, Fcks Life Coach.
Oh, there you go. That's great.
Yeah, I actually coach quite a few people on poly, not because I'm an expert, you know what I mean? I feel like my expertise is open communication and honest communication, and that's the foundation of polyamory. But even if you just want to be able to talk to somebody who knows what the fuck you're going through, then message me.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your actual lived experience of being a poly person.
Thanks for listening.
I've
Thanks for
learned
listening
so
out
much.
there. Yeah.
I hope it's helped a few of you out there.
Yeah, there's also a Facebook group called Van Poly,
Oh, nice.
which I've joined over the summer, fresh face.
Yeah.
And I love it. I actually love seeing people on there because even when people like spill their guts about what's going on, I'm like, oh my God, yeah, that makes sense. I can relate. And I feel less alone.
Beautiful. Yeah, vulnerability is what connects everybody. So those having places like that to share your experiences is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in, folks.
Yeah, thanks everybody, and we'll see you in the next one.
Yeah.
Bye.
That was good. That is what I say every time. That was good.